Hello all. Today we are privileged to introduce someone with nearly impeccable expertise in process simulation and plant design, boasting an impressive 15 years of experience into the chemical and petrochemical fields. This seasoned professional consistently share their wealth of knowledge on YouTube, uploading content almost every week with a dedicated YouTube channel following of around 18,000 individual and substantial library of 500 videos. Along with that impressive 28K followers on LinkedIn, their posts cover a wide spectrum of topics crucial for chemical engineers. He also has a blog. All those links are provided below in this video. These experts hold a bachelor degree from Sao Paulo University, accompanied by two specialized degree in chemical process and reliability engineering from the University of Rio de Janeiro. The pronunciation of this university, which may pose a challenge, are regrettably integrate for me to articulate accurately. Without further ado, let's delve into our discussion. To kickstart our conversation, we extend a warm invitation to Jefferson Costa. We are also keen to hear his guidance on the proper pronunciation of university names.
Hello guys, I'm back. My name is Jefferson Costa, as Onka already said, and I am here to share my experience with students, graduates, and engineers how to work with chemical process engineering plant design. Onka, thanks a lot for the invitation. It is my first video on 2024, where currently, although I am a Brazilian chemical process engineer, currently I am living in nearby Paris, so I live in France working with plant design.
So I'm talking about that university pronunciation, Sao Paulo University.
I am pretty sure that your pronunciation in Portuguese will be much better than mine in India.
Okay. So we'll move toward the questions part. My first question related to career beginnings or career starting. What inspired you to pursue a career in chemical engineering, and how did you hear your journey begin in this field?
I was around 18 years old, living in Rio de Janeiro, and I first heard about chemical engineering from my father. He was a piping designer on that time, and he suggested me to do chemical engineering as a bachelor degree. Here in Brazil, we have two kinds of schools or universities. We have the one that we need to pay, and we have the ones from the government where we need to do an exam to verify if we get inside, we don't need to pay anything. So I applied for one of these government universities here in Brazil, and I passed the exam. And the only thing that I knew about chemical engineering was not too much. It was something related to process or chemical process. But one belief that I had on that time, I was starting my professional career, let's say that way, is that I would finish the graduation. Here in Brazil is 5 years of graduation to complete a bachelor, and I would not give up no matter what. I would finish my graduation as a chemical engineer, and if I didn't like that after the graduation, I would decide. But my main drive was once a year I was inside, I would finish that no matter what. So when I started doing the course, I get identified with the disciplines most related to process, then chemistry. In fact, I am not an expert in chemistry. And that was how I get in touch with chemical engineering. When I finished the graduation, after 5 years, I was working as an attendant in a drugstore for the municipality, and I struggled a lot to get my first job as a chemical process engineer. The city that I was very small with not too much opportunities for chemical engineers. So I decided to return it to Rio de Janeiro because the university that I did was in São Paulo, as you said. I returned to Rio de Janeiro. I left my wife in Guaratinguetá on that time, and it took around 1.5 years to get my first job as a chemical process engineer, and I would bring my wife with me, and now she is with me all the time where I live. So this was my beginning of my career.
Okay. So how did you handle that 1.5 years of career span where you are struggle to get a first job? Because nowadays a lot of engineers facing this same kind of issue.
That's a good question because through the years I realized what's working for me and what didn't work. So my way of thinking, I believe that it's important to develop three kinds of skills: the internal skills, the technical skills, and the social skills. Technical skills are the technical knowledge that we learn in the university to solve problems, like chemical process engineers. So this is the easiest knowledge that we get in the university. But the university, in most of the cases, do not prepare us for the hard times, for the pressure, for the journey that we want to build in our career. So on this time that I was struggling to get a job, first of all, I didn't give up. I always persuade to be able to work as a chemical process engineer. So I distributed my curriculum in the region where I lived. That didn't work. So what I need to do, instead of blaming, I need to find other ways to solve the problem. That is find a job as a chemical engineer. So I identified that on that time, it was around 2007. Most of the jobs in chemical engineering was available in Rio de Janeiro. So because of that, I moved from my city to Rio de Janeiro to try to find a job. And I believe that when you develop your inner self and you keep with a good mindset, if you keep trying to improve yourself, the universe conspires at your favor or at my favor on that time. So I was going to a job interview. I was in the train going to a job interview for Michelin, if I'm not wrong. During the time that I was in the train, I received a call from a colleague of my father that told me to go to another office that day because they was needing a chemical engineer for the next day. So I went to the interview. I didn't pass the interview for Michelin. I went to the other office, talked to the manager of the project, and he told me, I need you here tomorrow because the client will visit us. And if you do not want the job, no problem, just be here tomorrow because I need to present to him one chemical process engineer. So after that, you decide if this job is for you or not. So I believe that this kind of situation happens when you have the preparation and you have the right mindset. So that's why I insist with my students to be familiar with personal development and that kind of stuff.
Right. Talking about career milestones, can you share a specific project or accomplishment in your 15 years of career span that you are particularly proud of?
Yes, I didn't pass in through too much companies. In fact, it was Braskem in Rio de Janeiro, White Martins in Rio de Janeiro, CDG, MDC in Rio de Janeiro, and now I am in Accents in France. So my first project, it was this one that I just told you in this short story, where it was a revamp of a polypropylene plant in Duque de Caxias in Rio de Janeiro, where I was part of the PC company responsible for doing the revamp. That was very nice because it was my first job. my first job in plant design, and I learned a lot of things related to chemical process engineering plant design in a broader way because the company that I was hired was a civil engineering company. I was the one and last the chemical process engineer on that company because after the consumption, after the project was finished, the consumption was dissolved and they did not handle more chemical engineering projects. And there I verified how important is to deal with social skills because yes, as doing the project inside the client, I build stronger relationships with people that worked there. And when the project finished, I was invited to join the project department of Braskem on that time. It was not Braskem in the name, but currently it is identified as Braskem. I spent there 3 years doing small projects to process improvements. And in 2010, I went to White Martins, that was a brand for Praxair, an American company dealing with industrial gases, producing oxygen, argon, and nitrogen by cryogenic process, but also they installed operates plants in hydrogen using steam methane reforming and also CO2 liquefaction in South America. So I joined a team of more or less 15 engineers where we were responsible for doing working on proposal, basic engineering, detail engineering, commissioning startup, plant troubleshooting. So it was on White Martins during 7 years that I built a strong basis for chemical process engineering plant design because I was able to see all the life cycle of a project. Uh, in 2017, I was fired because economic crisis in Brazil. We shot the team from 15 engineers to 5, and I was the last one to leave. And that was when I was struggling with my career because I passed 5 years without increasing salary, and I almost give up from being a chemical engineer. But we can talk about it later. Uh, 6 months later, I was invited to go to China to support Praxair office design, process design office for 4 months. And I returned to Brazil in 2019, where MDC invited me first to be a consultant for bioplant projects. And after that, they hired me as a regular employee. And in 2022, in fact, 2023, I was invited to participate to work in Access. Something that I would like to highlight here on car is that when I was in China, I did a decision, a very important decision in my life, that I wouldn't go after work anymore. In my mind, I realized that what I need to do that instead of being fired and look for jobs looks for me. And that's why I start sharing my knowledge on LinkedIn. And for the MDC job, I was invited through LinkedIn by the engineering manager. And the job that I found in Access was also an invitation on LinkedIn. And since I arrived here and shifted my LinkedIn address to France, I already received 6 job offer, although I am just 2 months here in France. So this is part of personal development and the plan that I have to my career. So that's why, again, I insist that personal development is very important to everyone.
So let's talk about some daily life stuff. Talking about the daily routine with a significant online presence, could you walk us through a typical day in your life, both professionally and personally?
Yes, my personal life and my professional life is in synergy because I live chemical process engineering all the day. I woke up from Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. No matter what. I set the ring to wake up me 6 a.m. I do coffee to my wife, and after that I do 15 minutes of meditation, oriented meditation, where I try to calm down and let's say synchronize myself with good energy from the earth or from the universe. After that, I do a breakfast with my wife, and around, in fact, 8 a.m. or 8:15, I go to the job. Now I can go walking to the job. In Rio de Janeiro, I spend 2 hours and 50 minutes to go to the job using bus, train, and subway. Here, I can spend only 45 minutes going walking to the job. And during this time, during the transportation time or during the walking time, I listen to audiobooks. Currently, I listen to a training from Tony Robbins, Personal Power 2. That is the main objective is to improve my inner self. But during the year, I will listen to other books, mainly focus on personal development and also marketing and sales. That are the pillars that complete a successful career in my point of view. So I spend in the job from 9 to 6 p.m., 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Return, I usually go reading an ebook. Currently, I reading a thermodynamic ebook from our friend from LinkedIn, Nikelesh. So it's very interesting, and I try to complete my day studying. Besides the job, study personal development, technical stuffs, and social skills. That is marketing and sales mainly. When I arrive at home, I get 1 hour of training related to chemical process engineering that I purchase to be up to date and be able to help my students. And from currently Monday and Thursday, I always share a post on LinkedIn to help people get familiar with plan design. And I am planning 2024 to return with my videos on YouTube. Thanks for this invitation because it's part of the plan. And every Saturday, probably I will do a video and let something available during the week. So this is my, let's say, my normal day.
Your YouTube videos start with "Hello, I am back. Today I am going to teach you." I love this approach to creating a dynamic and engaging experience for your audience. Have you thought or just gone with the flow and decided this is going to be my intro? What were your thoughts behind this initial lines of yours?
I tried to find some kind of quote that identified me, and I didn't start with "Hello guys, I'm back." It came from a series of video that I was doing, but I decided to keep with this quote because when I was on MDC, a friend of mine, they said to me, "Hello guys." So he identified me as the quote from my YouTube videos. So I decided that it would be cool to keep it. So I always try to start with this kind of presentation.
Okay, let's talk about some Brazilian influence. How was your Brazilian background influence your approach to chemical engineering? And are there any aspects unique to the Brazilian industry that you find particularly interesting?
What I observe from Brazilian style of work from other places, and that is my most influence, is that usually the Brazilian engineers they get involved with many things. When I start my career and when I was working on White Martins Praxair, the headquarter was in the US. So we had a lot of interactions with the US people, and also other parts of the world. And what was interesting is that in Brazil, we was involved with everything, but the guys in the US, they had specific activities to be done. And if the activities was not under their scope, they didn't worry about that. In Brazil, it's a little bit different. We try to get as much responsibility as possible. So this is, in my point of view, is the most influence that we have because we try solve the problem no matter what, using all the resources that we have and looking for more. When I get a question to me in the job or in the life, even though I don't know the answer, usually I just don't say, I'm not involved with this. Sometimes I go straight, I go after a possible answer or at least a reference. I don't know that, but you can find this answer on that way. Of course, that I receive a lot of requests, and I will not do this with everyone, but usually this is my way of solving problems. So this is, in my point of view, the main characteristics of Brazilian engineering.
Right. Working with the teams in Mexico, US, and China, how do you foster effective collaboration and communication across the borders?
What I found when I started working with chemical process engineering plant design is that English is mandatory for an engineer that is interested working with chemical process engineering plant design. Why? Because most of the technologies that we use for plant design is not from the countries in development like Brazil, like India, like Mexico or Uganda, and so on. We always need to deal with people from the Europe or people from the US and so on. When I was in China, 99% of people there were Chinese. All the communication was in English. So the working process in plant design is the same in no matter which place of the world we are. So what is important is to define the scope, the schedule, and the cost. So it was not difficult to work with people from different parts of the world. The most important thing was to understand which was the scope of each team. So I was responsible for a startup of a CO2 liquefaction plant in Peru. I don't remember the year. And there I was the team leader for the startup, and I had people from the US, from the headquarters that was accompanying us. I had people from the licensor that was from Moldavia, the region in Europe. I had the operators that was from Peru. So you can imagine that, and we had people from Brazil. So we had Portuguese, Spanish, English, and others kind of idioms to handle, but everything we solve it with English. So I believe that if you are able to build connection with people, you will not have any kind of issue no matter which part of the world you are. So I try my best to, as one of the pillars that I have in my career, is to develop the social skills that involves with getting connection with people.
As a leader in a project development, what are the key principles you follow to ensure the successful project outcomes?
It's important to understand that the project is made for operations. A project is authorized to solve a problem. So the problem will lead to more revenues for the company. So this is the first principle that we must understand, because sometimes people have some kind of conflicts between project and operations. Operations is always the client of project and not the opposite, in my point of view. So we need, based on that, we need to find the best way to set the scope. A well-defined scope will reduce a lot the stress between among the teams, management team, operation team, maintenance team, and project team. We need to set the schedule, a reliable, not a reliable, one schedule that is possible to achieve, because sometimes people that are not involved with plan design don't know how long it takes to get things done. So we need to manage these kinds of expectations with the stakeholders that are people involved in the project. And also we need to set the costs, because less budget available, it will impact or the quality or the time, and this is the basis of project management. So it's important to have the fundamentals of project management, scope, schedule, scope, cost, and schedule to be able to handle the expectations, and with that, we just need to do our job as an engineer. That is, develop engineering documentation for purchase of equipment, instrumentation, and etc. to be installed in the field, to be able to be commissioned, and with that, start the operation. So this is the way of I deal with managing a project.
I'm a little bit curious to know this answer. How does the landscape of chemical engineering in Brazil differ from other regions, and what opportunities or challenges does it present?
Uh, Brazil has some opportunities in the area of petrochemistry, and there are some industries that is not well known by an engineer when he is leaving, let's say, the university. Most of the time we focus our attention for the oil and gas industry. In Brazil, the oil and gas industry for many years was controlled by Petrobras, that is a government company, and to be able to work there is only from an exam. We need to pass an exam to become an employee, because it's a government company. But there are opportunities in the chemistry side, like companies like Braskem that develops chemistries. There are some opportunities in plant design in design companies, and this is my main focus. But to be able to look for the opportunities, we need to know what are the requirements for each kind of job. Because if you prefer, the person that is watching us prefer more research and development, what are the companies that deals with research and development? Because if I prepare myself to work with plan design and try to, a job in research and development, your life will be much harder than applying to correct position. So in Brazil, there are diversity of industries, and I specifically like plan design of design companies, and currently I am not so familiar with the economics, because I focus so much my career and what I can control, that I do not follow the politics, the social news, and etc. But there are opportunities if you know what you want, and if you get prepared to that opportunity.
Right. You started your career in Brazil, then work in China, which is almost like the other side of Brazil, and then came back to Brazil again, and you are working in France right now. How has this international exposure shaped your career, and what differences did you find in the work culture across these countries? Did you face any cultural shock? If yes, how did you cope with it?
That's interesting. Uh, when I went to China, I went with an open mind. I try my best to get to be part of the environment and not something strange into the environment. So I try to some words in Chinese in order to people verify that I'm doing my best to be to be able to communicate with them. I learned one or two words in Chinese. Chinese is very different from than Portuguese, so it's hard to us to learn. But what I have seen in general, going to China, going to Peru, going to the US, England, and now in France, is that people are most the same. They like to have, they like to find people that they can rely on. And I try my best to be a person that people can trust. So although we have some specificities related to the culinary or the food, I am very adaptable, so that was not a big issue for me. Based on interface communication, the principles are universal. It doesn't matter if you are in Africa, North America, Europe, Asia. The everyone like to be listened, everyone like to be respected, everyone like to know that what they are sharing with you will not be shared with other people. So in fact, I believe that if you study the fundamentals of human behavior, you can handle anyone in anywhere around the world.
Right. I have some rapid fire questions belongs to international exposure and all. First question is work in Brazil or work in abroad?
My current position in Brazil before leaving Brazil was very good, and I was very good in the company. But I believe that for us that lives in country development, international exposure in Europe, in the US mainly, these two, it was the only kind of job offer that I was considering. I was not looking for, but when people reach me, I was only evaluating if it was for Europe or for the US. It will give us some kind of uh, authority. What I say when people, when you are from Brazil, I believe that is similar in India. You are from India, but you work in the US for 1, 2, or maybe 3 years, and you return to your country, people will see you differently because you were exposure to a country that is already developed, that is respected. So this was the my decision to come to France. France is well known for many technologies, is a good has a good economy in Europe, and I desire to spend as many years as possible here, and eventually to when I return to Brazil, I again don't look for jobs, jobs looks for me, and have a good background because when you shift from different sectors. You can see, you can verify that I worked in the polypropylene sector. I learned a little bit there. I worked in the air separation industry where I learned a lot. After that, I went to for renewables, doing uh, biomethane, and now I am in a licenso that is responsible for oil refining and also the decarbonization sector. They have some technologies for decarbonization sector. So this path allows me to have knowledge in different technologies applying the same principles. And when you are exposed to different projects, you get more knowledge to implement and to understand what works and what didn't work. So this movement from Brazil to France was based on that, to be exposure to a hard economy in a strong company in a respectable country where people from other places can verify that Jefferson is really an international known engineer because he already worked in the US, in the France, in China, so I can rely on him to solve my problems. So this was my main objective going to France.
Which city do you prefer, Rio de Janeiro or Paris or Shanghai?
They are very different. They have the benefits, but for sure, I prefer not Rio de Janeiro specifically, but Cabo Frio. Cabo Frio is a city in the Rio de Janeiro state, but it is near to the beach. So I have an apartment there where I can see from my apartment the sea. And this is what my wife is missing a lot because here we are in Chateau, is a small province near Paris, and the Eiffel Tower is beautiful. But if you can go to the beach and walk every morning in the beach, is much better for sure. But on my vacations, I can return to Brazil and have this kind of pleasure.
Right. Which job do you prefer, lead process engineer on AG project or team member in a challenging project?
I personally, based on my understanding what I like to my inner self, I prefer to be a team member than being a project manager because I like to deal with the documentation to the development of process flow diagrams, drawings, pipe instrumentation drawings, and I am not uh, I can manage people, but if I can choose between doing things and managing people, I prefer to doing things. This is my way, and that's why it's so important each one understand their behaviors. And personal development uh, help us to understand that. When I was in MDC, there my job was mainly I was the process engineer responsible for the selection and development of projects. So I did things, and in a small stance, I manage things also, but most technically. And my manager on that time wanted me to get another position as a manager in operation unit. So after some discussions and after I understand me more, I declined to this kind of invitation because I wouldn't be so satisfied managing people than doing things. And I am not worried about salary. I'm not worried about status because what I do, I really love, and I can complement my revenues teaching people what I know. That's why one of the reasons that I have the In-Process Booster training program. I have other trainings on my website. So this way I can give my best to the company, doing part of the team, and don't worry about paying the bills.
From your point of view, what emerging trends do you see in the chemical and petrochemical industry that engineers should be aware of?
Here in Europe, there is let's say, tendency for renewables and decarbonization. The company where I'm working currently is mainly focused on that. I have seen that many startups has uh, was creating or has been created to handle these kind of things. And maybe if someone from developing countries wants to come to Europe, should be a good sector to focus on. Uh, in Brazil, we have some this kind of, let's say, tendency also. That was I was in a biomethane company that builds biomethane from biogas from landfills. So the environmental part of process engineering is in high demand, and I believe that is a good sector to look for. And if the person wants to work in chemical process engineering plant design, he or she must be aware of the kind of requirements that is needed. Because working operations is different than working plant design, that is different than working research and development. It's not only the sector, but inside each sector, for each position, the person must understand what is required.
What advice would you like to give fresh graduates entering into the chemical engineering field? considering both technical and soft skills?
If you decided to be a chemical engineer because you are looking for higher salaries, you are in you are not in the correct place. Think again, think twice if it's really the best decision for you. Because you to be a successful and in my point of view, you need to love and be passionate what you do. As a chemical engineer, you can work in many job positions. Not necessarily you need to work with plant design. You can work in sales, in marketing. I have a friend of mine from university that currently is the manager of human resource, and he is a chemical engineer. But he understood their beliefs and and his objectives. So during the university, it's time to you develop yourself and understand what drives you to keep going. So if you can get familiar with personal development, that's very important. Of course, that once you are in the university, you must focus on uh, learning the fundamentals of chemical engineering, although the fundamentals are the fundamentals, they will not give you specific skills to solve companies' problems. That's why you need to identify which requirements to get specific courses, specific trainings, specific orientation to be prepared for the job markets, in my point of view, and invest in social skills like oratory. I believe that is very important to everyone have. You don't need to be a Tony Robbins, you don't need to be a Obama, but you need to be comfortable talking to people. You don't need to have a YouTube channel as we have, but get exposure as much as possible during your university time. Always, also, that is missed for chemical engineers is knowing better a lot about marketing and sales. This is very important for your career because we are product. As an engineer, a job market is a job market because it's a market. A market where you are selling and you are buying. So you need to know how to sell yourself, and you do that knowing how to do marketing. So this comes to the three pillars that I shared with you in the beginning of our conversation. Internal skills, technical skills, and external skills are the basis for a successful career because this way you will get everything that you need to get pleasure in life and avoid pain.
Nowadays, the chemical and oil and gas or renewable industries going little bit dynamic. How do you stay updated with these industry changes, and how important are adaptability and flexibility as an engineer?
I try to be updated with the technologies and with the knowledge that I need to do my job, most often reading magazines. I believe that books are good for fundamentals, but for getting up to date, magazine is best because they are developed with the current news that are going in the industry, and because they most often the papers, the articles are done by real engineers that are working on that time. So I have some magazines that I have signed up, like hydrocarbon processing. I have also hydrogen production, if I'm not wrong. There is a very good that is chemical engineering and so on. So at least five magazines I sign up. Of course, that I don't spend all my time reading magazines, but for each edition, I try to identify one article or paper that address to what I'm looking for. So for engineers that wants to get up to date, I strongly recommend you to subscribe for free magazines. They are online, they are for free. And if you need some reference for that, you can go to my YouTube channel because I have a specific video sharing five magazines that I recommend for chemical engineers.
And my next question within this, how important adaptability and flexibility as an engineer?
Adaptability make you work in anywhere around the world. It's very important that you identify the problem and you try to find a solution. Not think about the problem, but think about the solution. And I believe that adaptability is very important because if the situation changes, you will be able to get a fast response. There are people that is very stuck to, I always did this way. And when they go to another company, it can be a point of conflict. If you are going to moving from a company to another or going to another place, you must remember, and I always do that, their home, their rules. Learn their rules first, identify what is good, what's not so good, and only after that, if you have the chance, do not try to impose what you know, but try to suggest what you believe that is good for solving the problem. Because in the end, the chemical process engineers, they are hired, they are needed to solve problems, not to point out problems.
With a substantial LinkedIn following, how do you leverage the platform for networking and knowledge exchange, especially with your daily updates?
I believe for us that are professionals, LinkedIn is the main platform for building connections and exposing yourself to the world. As I comment, when I was in Brazil, I time to time I receive invitations for job interview because I was exposed on LinkedIn, and uh, in my specific case, I don't mind if people do not like my accent or if I do not have a perfect English. I decided to talk in English because it is the engineering speaking language. And you don't worry about people judgment, but it is important to share information that is reliable. So always try to have a good source supporting you in order that you can share your knowledge with people, with that people trust you, know you more, and eventually in a job interview, someone will already know you. And something that I would like to share with you, Onka, and the audience when I came to Access, we have here more than 150 chemical process engineers working in plant design, and we have 4 floors in a building with engineers in each floor. And my manager get me to be presented to people for the process team. And in each floor, at least 1 or 2 persons already know me from LinkedIn. So I didn't know them, but because of more than 5 years sharing content on LinkedIn, is most not most, but some of the employees that I was presented already know me from LinkedIn, and that is a much easier way to build connection with them, to work with them. When people already know you, they know that they can trust you, how you behave. So I believe that the LinkedIn is the main today, at least today, during our conversation, is the main social platform for people to develop their career.
Is there any advice for a newbie creators who want to create a chemical engineering related content on LinkedIn?
You will never see me sharing on LinkedIn copywriting content. Uh, I believe that the likes that you get in this kind of content is not worth when you compare that if you are sharing, for instance, engineering guideline on your LinkedIn profile from one company, what will stop you from sharing from my company if I hire you? People don't think about that. They think that more like is better. It's not that way. You need to show your knowledge. So my suggestion, if you are starting today, keep with 1 post per week on LinkedIn, sharing your own thoughts, and here a bonus for people that is watching us. Always add a photo to a writing post that you have on LinkedIn because it will help to attract attention to your post.
Right. So being realistic, be consistent, and don't run behind the followers.
Yeah.
Could you please share your personal experience on obtaining the Aspen ISIS AspenTech certification and what value it added to your professional journey?
That's an interesting question because when I got in touch with this certification, Aspen High C certification, I was already providing Aspen High Seas trainings from my students. And the first time that I did the certification was just to, let's say, to have more credits to train people in Aspen High Seas. I already was with more than 15 years of experience. So for me, at my stage, I believe that it do not matter too much. But for people that is starting their career as graduates, just graduates, 1 or 2 years of experience, eventually the Aspen High C certification or others Aspen Tech certification is a way to shortcut for recruiters' decision. So this, my point of view, let the life of the recruiter easier and the chances to you be invited to a interview increases.
Right. You engage with your audience through YouTube, and you have done some podcast episode also, like with Mr. Vijay and Mr. Kirit and many more persons. And now this podcast. How has the public speaking and podcasting enriched your professional journey?
It's very, very, very important. And for two reasons, because when you get familiar with speaking to people, you get less stressed or you get in a normal state. If it was 5 years ago, maybe, or 8 years ago, if I was talking to someone during a meeting, a room meeting, not on internet, but live meeting, oh, I know that is my time to talk. My heartbeat starts to accelerate, I get stressed, so you don't think good if you are in a stressed way. So public speaking, in my point of view, help you to behave normally with people because when you are talking one to one, it's sometimes as a friendly conversation. You get relaxed. It's easier to share your thoughts, and when when you are exposed to many people, you get stressed because of judgment. So if you get familiar with public presentation, you get more skilled, you improve your behavior. I believe that's very important to that. So I believe that communication is one of the most important things that you can invest in your career because we grow, we cry as babies to communicate. So you don't need to be stressed to communicate. Keep that in mind, and you for sure will look for the best.
Right. Talking about digitalization in process design, with the rise of Industry 4.0, how has digitalization impacted process design and simulation in recent years, and what opportunities does it present for chemical engineers? Because most of the chemical engineers is not aware about the digitalization in Industry 4.0 and all.
Yeah, the industry 4.0, there is some concepts related to that, Internet of Things and etc. Most of that impacts more the operation side of a company than, in my point of view, of course, than engineering. The engineering, the digitalization and also the improvements in productivities does is to reduce the time that we develop documentations. Because what is the purpose of the chemical process engineering plan design? Is to build the heating material balance based on the heating material balance results produce the process data sheet, and with the process data sheet, others documentations can be done. So this is the main target that we have. But not everything can be shipped or can be done by the machine. We need to have good knowledge, good conceptuals to verify if the answer that comes from the process simulation software is reliable or not. So this is the main purpose of having a person instead of a machine in front of the computer doing calculations, and the life of the chemical process engineer is not only calculation, we have a lot of communication to be done. So what I believe specifically about digitalization is that it will get it's let easier for us to have more information, but those information must be well treated so we don't have garbage in, garbage out. That is a quote for process simulation. So as much you develop your inner skills and external skills, more people will want to work with you, because if I can, when you call a company, you don't want to talk to a machine. When you go in a WhatsApp and try to reach to solve a problem, you don't want to talk to a machine, because machine is pre-programmed. And the reason to have persons or to have people in the job is to have the flexibility and the behavior to solve problems. And this is something that only humans can do, at least at the current state that we have. So I am not worried about losing job because of that, because I can adapt myself, and I know if I am able to build stronger relationship and solve problems, I will be employable. Let's say that way.
Do you do you have any plan to venture into entirely different field like renewable or green hydrogen? If yes, what would be our advice to professionals who are looking to switch the sectors and venture into something new like green hydrogen or renewables?
That's an interesting question, because my main focus is chemical engineering plant design. I can work in any sector, even in the nuclear sector. I don't have any preference for anyone. Currently, I am in a licensor that deals with petrochemical or oil and gas refining, and I am very good with that because I learned a lot of things related to oil and gas industry that I didn't know. But I don't have any specific wish to work with renewables.
So coming to the last question of this podcast, looking ahead, what are your future goals or projects, and how do you envision contributing to the growth and development of the chemical engineering community that you have created?
My goal in the next years is to increase my basis of students. I verify that no matter if the person is from the US, Brazil, India, Asia, Europe, France, Germany, etc., there are some lags between the university and the industry that, in my point of view, will not be filled by the university, because many of the teachers there, their drive is research and development, because a university lives off research and development most of the case. And who will give the best, who will fill best the companies or the industry gaps are people that are from industry. So I have a goal. My next goal now is to have 1,000 students per year where I can mentor them inside my programs, my training programs, mainly the process booster, because I believe that having a mentor is the fastest way to find the correct direction. It's not only a matter of how fast you go, but the correct direction that you are going. because if you go fast but the wrong direction, it doesn't make any sense. So to achieve that, my goals are to keep sharing my knowledge on LinkedIn and also returning with my videos on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So these are the main platforms today. And I don't want to leave selling courses is not my objective, stopping from working from the industry. I want to add teaching from my current activities. And people sometimes ask me how you find the time to work and to teach and to have YouTube channels, social media. I have time because it is my passion. I live, I breathe, I think in chemical process engineering from the when I wake up for up to I go to sleep, and it is not bad for me. I live this, and I want to share it as with much people as possible while I can.
Right. So, thank you, sir, for your time from your busy schedule. Hope all this content will help our audience.
Thanks for the invitation, Car. It was a pleasure to me. As I told you, not to time I am able to talk by myself, and every person has this need of talking about themselves. And I am very happy to know that in some way my story, my experience, my career can help people that are listening or watching to us, because in the end we try to do our best to build good things for the world. I believe that's important. And the way that I have to do that is sharing more about chemical process engineering plant design with people. And this kind of invitation allows me to do this more and more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.